Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I truly appreciate each and every one of you, my subscribers. Those of you who are visiting, truly appreciate you all. I encourage you all to share, to like, all of that good stuff. Comment, send me an email if you have comments or questions that cannot be placed in the thread. Please keep in mind that comments needs to be respectful. As I said, I don't read rude comments, so when I see it's getting rude, I'd stop and delete and block. All right, guys, but I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I want to get right into this word because there's something very important that the Lord wants me to share with you all today, and it's going to come from 2 Samuel chapter 7. I'm going to get started in verse 12, and it's going to go to 12 through 16. In this chapter, I encourage you to read it on your own. David had planned on building a house for the Lord, to put the Ark of the Covenant inside of this house, a place that he felt would be better than the tent, or with some curtains around it as it was established at the time. It wasn't like it was in a raggedy setting, but David felt like, hey, I have a house of my own. How much more should I build and place the Ark of the Covenant within that house? But this is where the Lord gives Nathan a word to give to David, letting him know, no, I don't want you to build the house, but in fact, your offspring will be building this house. Okay? So I'm reading from the Amplified just for the sake of the audience. I love King James, but I'm going to read Amplified today. So 2 Samuel chapter 7, starting at verse 12, it says, "And when your days are fulfilled and you sleep with your fathers," meaning once David dies, "I will set up after you your offspring, who shall be born to you, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name and my presence, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. When he commits iniquity, I will chasten him with a rod of men and with the stripes of the sons of men. But my mercy and loving kindness shall not depart from him, as I took from Saul when I took away." Oh my goodness, let me start that again. "But my mercy and loving kindness shall not depart from you, as I took from Saul, who I took away from before you. And your house and your kingdom shall be made sure forever before you. Your throne shall be established forever." Okay, so these were the words that the Lord spoke to David. Now, as you read further into the Word of God, and as you may have already figured out by now, is that the Lord is referring to Solomon, who's going to be born to Bathsheba, who is married to Uriah, who went off to war, and David saw his wife Bathsheba taking a bath on a rooftop. He inquired of who she is, certain to know at this point that she is Uriah's wife, but yet he still chose to commit adultery with Bathsheba. When he committed adultery with Bathsheba, shortly after that, she sent word to him that she's pregnant. Well, David is trying to cover this all up. He sends for Uriah to come back from war to go and lay with his wife, because they want to plant the baby on Uriah. Say, okay, you came in, you slept with her, so when she's pregnant now, we can say Uriah came back and went in onto her. Well, Uriah, of course, refused to do that because he was a man of battle. He was dedicated to David and didn't want to do that. He was about the battle. So what David decided to do in lieu of all of that was to send Uriah to war, have him placed at the very front lines of the battle, in the heat of the battle, and to have Uriah killed. Shortly after that, Bathsheba, of course, she is pregnant. She does lose the baby. And not long after that, Bathsheba becomes the wife of David. Now, of course, Nathan the prophet knew all about that and dealt with David accordingly. But what I'm trying to show you is this word was a prophecy. You see, David already had 6 sons, and he probably thought that the Lord was referring to one of his 6 sons. But little did he know that the Lord already knew that Uriah was going to come. The Lord already knew what David was going to do. He already knew that David was going to be with Bathsheba, because that's the woman, that the seed that the Lord is talking about here, the seed that will establish and build the house of the Lord, was going to come from Uriah's wife, Bathsheba. You understand that? So the word that the Lord wants me to share with you is, you are not a mistake. Someone needs to know that you are not a mistake. Whether you are a child that was born out of wedlock, whether you were a child, you grew up in a single parent home, which you just raised by your mom or just raised by your dad, whether you are a child that you are a result of an affair, I want you to realize this: you are not a mistake. You see, the word of the Lord was already going forth about Solomon before that incident occurred, before David even knew who Bathsheba was, before David even inquired, before David put his hand towards her to bring her in unto him, to lay with her. The Lord was already talking about the seed that was going to come out of that. Now, granted, Solomon was not a result of, Uriah had already died when Solomon was born. But the bottom line is, just as the Bible always refers to Bathsheba as Bathsheba, Uriah's wife, she was Uriah's wife. There is a history around David and Bathsheba's relationship. Okay, so people will look at it as a bad thing, or there she goes, right? Maybe the side eye, because she was always Uriah's wife. David killed her husband to cover up his sin, and then took her for himself after that. And then out of her womb was going to come Solomon, who God was going to use mightily and blessed him. So the Lord wants somebody to know that it does not matter the circumstances and the situation in which you were born. It doesn't matter what others may say about you and what they may think about your mother and may think about your father. It doesn't matter that you're a result of, you may be born out of rape. You may have been born out of as a result of an affair. You were born in a situation where maybe the mother doesn't even know who your dad is. It just may be something of that nature. Whatever you are a product of, that's outside of, even if you're born in a house with both your parents and they're saying you were a mistake and you are nothing and you're not going to be anything, I want you to know today, the word of the Lord today is, you're not a mistake. Just as, when the Lord is speaking to David here about his son, that's going to establish his throne, and how he's going to have his hand upon him, and that he will be a father to him. I want you to know, whoever you are, that no matter who don't want to accept you, that the Lord is going to be your father. He's going to be a father to you. The Lord will be the mother you never had. The Lord can raise you up and put everything in you that a mother could have instilled within you. Not that he's going to be a mother, but I'm saying, when your mother and your father forsake you, the Lord is going to lift you up. Because anything a woman knows anyway, anything a mother knows to give to her child, all this comes from the Lord. So the Lord will raise you up. Stop thinking that you're by yourself and you have nobody, because you have the Lord, and your steps have already been ordered by the Lord. You are not a mistake. You are not what the circumstances and the situation that brought you forth. That's not who you are. Your steps are ordered, and God has things in store for you that he wants you to do. He wants to establish you. He wants to raise you up. But as long as you're still walking in the past and believing the things that people are saying to you, it's going to be hard for you to be in this place to get the things that God has for you. I'm not saying the walk as a believer is just hunky-dory and perfect. It's not. It is tough, okay? Especially in these last days. But I hear in my spirit, the Lord wants me to tell somebody that you're not a mistake. You're not what your siblings want to tell you. You're not what your stepmother or the mother, the woman who has been married to your father, but your father had an affair. Your father had an affair with your mother. So now she has a problem with you because you are a product of an affair. But God is saying you are established and you are called. He knew who you were before the incident occurred. And just as the Lord was speaking about Solomon before the whole incident with Bathsheba, the Lord has done the same thing with you. Just like Jeremiah 1, when he spoke to Jeremiah and said, before you were placed in your mother's womb, I knew you. The Lord knew you before the incident. Your Father in heaven knew you before you were even born. So God's plan has nothing to do with what they would consider to be a mistake. God's plan and his will for your life has nothing to do with how they want to look at you and say that you are a mistake and you're a problem, and they want to hate you because where you came from or how you came about. See yourself through the eyes of the Lord. I just want to tell somebody today, you are not a mistake. Stop letting the circumstances and the situation that you may have been brought in, and the mistakes and decisions of your parents and the things that they chose to do wrong, that has nothing to do with when God decided to allow you to be born and watched you and nurtured you and took care of you while you're in your mother's womb. What they consider mistakes, what they consider to be an accident, what they consider to be just the most horrible thing that could have happened. The Lord had already established you, my brothers and sisters, and said, this is my plan. I have decided that this child will be born, and this is going to be their destiny, and this is going to be their walk. God's plan has nothing to do with what they call a mistake, my brothers and sisters. You are not a mistake. You are not a mistake. Read it for yourself. 2 Samuel chapter 7. You can read all of it. But I started at verse number 12, I believe I said, 11 or 12. And I stopped at verse 16. God has a plan for your life. You are not a mistake. You are not an error. The Lord was already talking about Solomon before Solomon came on the scene. And so many times we have people that want to label people and put a scarlet letter on folks because of what the circumstances around your birth. But that has nothing to do with the Lord. So the Lord wants you to stop believing the lie of the enemy. Come in his presence so he can show you who you truly are in him. This is the word of the Lord today. Be blessed.